Camarillo, California. Now, whether you are listening or not just yet, because I am a little early to my chat, I'll be vamping for another minute until you sign on, and hopefully we can make this work together. That the sound quality, the picture quality, the PowerPoint presentation will work and function as I had hoped it will and practiced. And I am very grateful to the beta readers for letting me come and join with them and participate with you today. As soon as we start, I will be talking a little bit about me, very little, and we will be getting started on the presentation because I'm only going to do a half an hour. It really didn't warrant a full hour. It is the top of the hour, my friends, and hopefully you are with me. I would go over to my site, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to throw myself off, but I have just a little bit of a delay, so I don't want to do that. And we will go back to me. Here I am. Welcome. I am Carol Malone, and many of you know me from LDS Beta Readers. I am learning how to become an editor, and I have done many critiques for you, beta reading for you at the LDS beta reading site. I am an author. Yes, I do like the chesty men, but this is more than just a romance, even though it says fight card romance. I write for a syndicated title called Fight Card, in which I am the first woman to step into the ring with a bunch of tough-minded guys and write a romance from the point of view of the girl, the gal who belongs to the boxer. And instead of being a whiny girl, she is supportive of her husband and wants him to succeed. Anyway, that's just a little bit about me. So we're going to attempt to get started here with my screen share. I hope you're with me on this. It worked. You can see it. Anyway, let's see if we're going to go forward and make this happen. Anyway, when I started writing eons ago, I thought it was just kind of a lone wolf proposition, and I didn't know if I wanted anybody to read my stories. Then when you start telling people, you all of a sudden want feedback. Well, I would give people my stories, and then I would never hear from them again. Some even stopped being my friends, which is odd. And I couldn't figure out why. So as I kept going along and writing more and more novels and manuscripts, I got to the point where I did want someone's opinion. And I wanted a good opinion. And then as I've been through the years and years of critiquing and editing and going through guides and discussing things with people, I realized that not everyone knows how to give a good critique. They say things that you want to hear, and that's not really a good critique. So I devised this little course called The Aspiring Author's Guide to Getting a Great Critique. Because we either write something worth reading or we do something worth writing, and someone else, of course, will write it for us. So how do we give and receive great critical feedback? Or, my little subheading up there, how do we produce something of quality your readers will adore? So what qualifies me? As I said, I am a writing professional. I'm currently working as a creative coach, apprentice, and a book editor. I critique for many organizations, including online groups of the RWA, the LDS writing community, Facebook writing groups, just all kinds of other groups. There's all kinds of critique groups on Facebook, and my own local club, Writers Club in Ventura, California, where I am the newsletter editor, and I have produced a number of newsletters, and I have to write articles every month for that. These are the books that I have published so far, and I am working on the sequel to the first one, First Ladies' Night, with this. This was actually a short, Christmas short, but I'm working on the full-blown sequel to Fight Card, which will be out in June, keeping my fingers crossed. So let's introduce our topic. What is critiquing. I wanted to give you some effective strategies to help prepare your manuscript to receive the great critical feedback that you want before you turn it over to a critique partner or a group for a thorough examination and refinement. Then, when you understand the basics of genre fiction, you'll be armed with an arsenal of writing tools that will assist other writers in a critical setting. Okay, let's see here on my next slide. A critique, what is a critique? It's actually an evaluation of some or all of the parts of the manuscript. For example, does everything work together to advance your plot? Is the reader drawn in to live vicariously through the actions and emotions of your characters? We just had 2 really awesome workshops, if you were able to listen to, about the emotions of your characters. Third, is your dialogue weak and pedestrian? I love that work. Is it just like you met someone on the street? No, we don't want that. Is your narrative too long or unnecessary? We'll talk about that. Is your voice strong and unique? And what are the big picture thoughts on your entire novel? Well, you will need to know when will you need to know you need help? Someone posted this in the chat the other day. At some juncture in your writing journey, you want someone to read your manuscript and tell you if you're on the right path or if the path might lead to publication. Some writers like to pen their whole novel, then get help from various forms of readers. Others like to work with groups chapter to chapter as they write. What does getting good feedback mean to you? If you've terrible, I should have this critique. If you've written a book or are in the process of writing a book, having people of integrity, honesty, and proficiency scrutinize your writing so that you can put forth your best possible book for publication is like totally awesome, man. What is an effective critique? When fellow writers read through and comment on your manuscript, they'll help you see what you can't. You become blind to your own mistakes. This phenomenon is called book blindness. When you receive a positive critique, you'll know that readers are happy and excited about what you've written. It feels really good to have someone say, yeah, I really enjoyed your book. And we all want that. We all want people to enjoy what we write. How can you prepare to receive a great critique? We all think our work is brilliant. Don't lie to me, I know. But when others disagree, it can cut deep. Believe me, I know about that too. It's not easy to receive a less than positive critique. Maybe you'll take offense. Some offended writers can be so crushed by a critique, they'll stop writing. So this is my first bit of information or a rule for you. You got to keep an open mind. Train yourself to accept different opinions. Learning how to steel your spine and grow a thick skin against criticism will be a great asset. I mean, you can't get it any way. But anyway, what is the critiquer's golden rule? Critique unto others as thou would have them critique unto you. Be courteous and thoughtful. Offer clear, effective, kind, and efficient remarks with a goal to guide, teach, and inspire the writer. Offensive words have no place in a critique. And never, and I mean never, critique the person or what you may not like about him or her personally. And I know if some of you have got books up on Amazon and someone doesn't like you or the style of your book, they will give you a rotten review, and we don't want that. There's no place for that in society or anything, but it happens. And lastly, remember, a critique is not an edit, and that requires a different mindset and different skills. So, in my vast writing arsenal of years and everything like that, I kind of found these 8 key points of basic fiction writing, which I really like. The first one is the opening hook, and I think Nikki talked about the opening hook and how it can be more than just that first sentence or paragraph. It can be the entire first novel. Dialogue. What's your dialogue about? I know Laura talked about that. Narrative descriptions. We don't want long world buildings. I once read a romance novel where the author talked about the rain in Spain for 40 pages. I was ready to kill her. Next is interior monologue. What do we think? What do the characters think? Scene and sequel and creative responsive characters is another good one. Goal and motivation. What motivates your characters to keep moving? And conflict. And we all talk about conflict. I'm going a little too quickly here. So what is opening velocity? That's your opening hook. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. That's going to grab you and pull you in. So does it hold the attention to fulfill a promise? Is the inciting incident in your opening strong enough to motivate the reader to continue? Or does the book open with a lengthy description of the weather, bogging down the beginning? Dialogue for emotional impact. And I know the speakers before me have talked about this. Have you heard this very famous line from literature? You talking to me? It grabs you, it takes you someplace, and it's highly charged and realistic. And we want our dialogue to move the action along. We don't want to give information dumps, but we want it to move along. And then Laura also talked about tags, beats of action, and Catherine talked about the emotional responses, which we did little exercises through. It was great. Anyway, so narrative descriptions. We don't want an information dump. Make sure it's appropriate to the story. Make sure you describe the setting and the character's physical appearances, just the right amount of information without it reading like an essay. No one wants to read an essay. The generation today wants quick, fast, and we don't want to be bogged down. When Dickens wrote all his books, people had no televisions, they had no devices. They had time to read long narrative books. It was a dark and stormy night. The rain fell in torrents. Except for the occasional intervals, blah, 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 blah. We don't want people skipping over huge sections of our book. Okay, interior monologue. Do you talk to the voices in your head? This is deep POV. Does it focus? Do you focus your POV on one character at a time and resist the urge to head hop? Now, I've heard that this is not a bad thing if you do it really well, but I'm not Nora Roberts, so I can't do it real well. Is the point of view clear? Are the emotional responses from the POV character physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual enough to move our readers? This is a great quote from one of my Facebooks, and I'm sorry if this is offensive. Unfortunately, once you've established yourself as a hard-nosed bitch, it was difficult to admit that the soft, fluffy woman you're hiding inside. And why would you want to admit to that anyway? I love that interior monologue. Scene and sequel. Is there enough for the right amount of conflict in each scene, followed by an effective amount of reflection and response? Now, in an action-packed book, the response is usually very quick. Okay, you've got the action, you've got this and that, and then there's got to be a little beat where the protagonist figures, he takes a breath and goes, now what do I do? Now he plots and plans, and that's the sequel part. Randy Ingermanson is one of my writing gurus, and he says you need to write paragraph after compelling paragraph, with each one leading your POV character smoothly through your initial goal to knuckle-whitening conflict, to bone-jarring disaster, and then through a visceral reaction to the horrible dilemma, and finally onto a clever decision. Then writing about strong characters. And of course, we all know about what it's like to have interesting, believable, and characters who act properly. What do you think of this person's thoughts? A pungent, decaying scent of old leather and dust in the closed-up car drew her back across the miles and years to the wild rides in her grandmother's old DeSoto. Goal and motivation. Nothing better. You got goals. Your characters have to have something to do. Dorothy, what did she want? Well, first she wanted a place where nobody bothered her. There wasn't a wicked person that wanted to take her dog. And then it was getting back to Annie M. She had a goal and she had the motivation, and it carried her through the book. Conflict. Is it strong? Is it work from the size and scope of the story? Does it carry each scene? Is it significant enough for the reader to care? This is something I'm writing. His psychologist told him he was having a crisis of faith. His wife called it betraying their marriage covenants and the religion they had once held dear. Some of his close friends had been offended because he'd called into question their religious traditions. Didn't matter. The new prophet would show him the way. So let's get introduced to the instructions on how to do a critique. Read the material as a reader. This is very important. using my 8 keys or whatever points of writing doctrine you have, and go through it using those keys and point out the strong parts and the weak parts. Remember, do not rewrite. That's a job for an editor. This is a specific example from my own critique that I had done. You can see that she told me how glad she was to read it, how intriguing the characters were, that they portray love and sexual chemistry and all that good stuff. Then she told me what I did as far as narrative setting, characterization, dialogue, and goal. And that's really when we critique, even when we do beta reading for our friends in the group, if we can have a little section either before their chapter or after the chapter where we kind of run through these things and think, what are the strong points? What do they need help on? And give, because this for a reader is absolutely mind-blowing and so helpful. Okay, the second instruction. Read the material again. This time, give a critiquer's response with your perspective as another writer. Again, use the 8 key points and help you assess and comment as a writer to a writer. Start with what works and ends with what needs some help. Refrain from pointing out a lot of things. If the grammatical errors and the punctuation and stuff is excessive, then just point that out to them. Don't correct everything. Remember our golden rule. Okay, this is an example of my own story in which the critiquer has done exactly that. She's written her responses out to the side in the form of comments through the review tab on Word and done track changes. And she didn't, notice she did not change my writing. She put out to the side when I said, Reese, walk back into the room. She says, did you mean walked? And that is the perfect way to do a critique. She's given me some good things down here. And she said, what I liked up here is she said, doing some more fleshing out. In other words, that needs a little bit more emotion. Like Catherine says, a little bit more emotional response on those different levels. And lastly, because we're just about ready to finish up here, and then we'll answer some questions. When you feel your manuscript is ready for a critique reader, the next step is to find people that you trust who will read your thing. And I suggest like family members, friends, people who, friends who write, or complete strangers. You'll want people who are expert, honest, and compassionate. You may have to go through many critique partners or groups until you find one that fits your learning style and writing style. I have several personal experiences with not being able to find the right kind of group. I first found one who charged me a fee to critique my thing. I thought that was the way it was done. I thought you had to pay, $400 a month to have your writing critiqued. And when I finally figured out she was doing that as her living, and I was paying her living, then I had to break free of that. And when you're asked to give a critique, the first thing you need to ask is, what kind of feedback does the writer expect on their manuscript? Remember, a critique is not an edit. And then use the 8 key points or make up your own for how to read and respond. And then focus first on what's done right. Then focus on the stuff that needs improvement. So I wish you good luck as you begin and continue your critiquing and writing journey. If you have any questions, let me know. I can be found lots of places. And these are the links for my books, which I'll have on the blog if you're interested in. My favorite quote is, you can't wait for inspiration. You have to go after it with a club. I'm just going to zip over here to YouTube, but I don't see any questions. I'm not sure how that thing opens up. Anyway, that's my presentation, and I hope you enjoyed it. I don't know if that worked.